there's only so much that you can do before it gets to a point and you're like, nah, this is like, say for example, reserved for a girlfriend, or you'll have to pay for this, or I need some quid pro quo. Like at the end of it, you as a guy definitely have to draw that boundary, and no matter how they react, be unapologetic about it, because women can emotionally and sometimes even mentally manipulate you to a point where you feel sorry for them. But
the royal penis is clean, Your Highness.
welcome to the Breakdown Podcast, where I talk about love, sex, and relationships from a guy's perspective, as well as a bunch of other guy shit. The man on the mic is a man whose sickness for the thickness prevents him from skinny dipping. He is also a man who may include running his mouth to his cardio routine. It is none other than your tall, dark, and mildly handsome man, Sir Denver B. And I am here to speak on women. Not because I suddenly became one, but because I feel like there's just some shit that we need to tell y'all. And even the men, just so that, we can put some more truth out here. And I know, y'all can't handle the truth all the time. And I get it, ignorance is bliss, but wouldn't it be better if, you knew the truth and then you decided whether you're gonna be delulu about it or not? Because I feel like that's just better. That's just better. Plus also, there was a guy that was busy asking for some tips on how to understand women, but I'm gonna get to that a little later on in the main topic, and hopefully you'll get to hear some very interesting tips, because I have maybe 5, and the best part about that is I can be wrong and you guys will just come back to bash me and be like, Denver, you don't know shit. Of which, for you to come back and say that Denver, you don't know shit, y'all will definitely have to listen all the way till the end, or at least you guys will have to listen to most, if not all, of the episode. And should you like it, should you not like it, should you have a different form of feedback, or should you want to suggest a potential topic or a potential guest, then the social media links are usually in the description below. They rarely ever change, and my DMs are always open. And should you not want to go through all of that, then you can just wait till the end of the episode, because I usually mention the social media handles there. But all in all, thank you so much for listening. I hope you listen all the way till the end, and I should definitely be getting into my talk on women, because this one probably might not even be all that long, but I feel like it just has to hit right. And I want to first start by discussing the remarks of a woman about women. And honestly, by the time I give my side of things, I think you might actually end up siding with me than with her. But this is a guy speaking, and I could be wrong, of course. But anyways, let me kick things off with that. So I was recently on IG and I stumbled across a video from a lady called Alma, whose IG handle is Alma Royce with a Z, who decided to speak on the female experience, or at least the beautiful female experience, and how if you are dating a very beautiful woman, there's guys that are trying to hit on her. Now, this isn't particularly new information, because by the time you're dating a beautiful woman, not unless if she's only beautiful to you and her mother, well, for a fact that guys definitely want that. And so I guess maybe either she was talking about how these women have so many options, or how she's so faithful to you. I don't know. I'll try and debunk that once she gives her side of things, because I have the clip here and I'm going to play it then, give my side of this entire thing. So without further ado,
if you're dating a beautiful girl, just know that a minimum of 2 men per day try their luck on her. That makes it 14 men per week, 60 men per month, and 730 men per year. And that 2,190 times in 2 years. Now tell me something. Can your girl say no 2,190 times?
Okay. Now, I listened to this, and the first thing that just clicked in my mind is this is bullshit, and I feel like this was a debate that was had like eons ago. Granted, this was something that was said, maybe about even 7 years ago? 7, 8, 9 years ago? Because I first heard something like this back in like 2016, 2017 there. And how people were saying it was, she gets hit on by like 3 different guys a day or some shit like that. And back then I was like, oh shit, this is so many people, but it still didn't really make sense to me. Now, granted, I'm a guy. I wouldn't know what it's like being like a woman in your young 20s who is attractive and has a bunch of guys that really, really want to be with you. That one, I'm sure for a fact. I don't have the facilities for that. I ain't got a booty or great female looks that come with a vagina. So, I probably don't entirely understand what the experience is. But what I do know for a fact is, 1, my math isn't that bad, and 2, this is absolute bullshit, and that's for not even just math related reasons. And I say this because, first of all, last I checked, 730 by 2 is not 2190. Like, this shorty was using the wrong math figures and she thought that we'd let her get away with that shit, which just doesn't work that way. Now, that is the number for 3 years if 2 guys were approaching you every single day. And it's definitely not the 2 years thing. And maybe that was just a silly mistake, and I probably shouldn't even think about that all that much. Except that even when you think about this practically, it doesn't make sense, okay? And I say this because for this to happen, it's basically based off of the assumption that this babe, or at least this supposedly beautiful woman, is going out every single day, or even though she's not going out, she's online, she's posting up, and people are seeing her profile and are trying to hit her up every single day, or some combination of the two every single day, and all of these people are different, all right? And the truth of the matter is that is a pure stack of bull. And I say this because I know a lot of people that will basically turn off their phones, chill at home, do absolutely fucking nothing, and basically become couch potatoes for days on end. They might not leave their houses, and hell, for all we know, they could also just be doing delivery so they don't leave their houses, period, sometimes even for weeks. So you're telling me that that person is still going to be getting hit on by who again? Like, fine, you can even throw in the IGs on there, but how many babes post up on IG or aren't on private? They have guys sliding into their DMs all the time. Because for you to appear on the explore page, you kind of have to be an active user of IG to some degree, so that the algorithm can suggest you to different people, or people should be searching for you, of which there's only so many people that will hear about you and search for you, not unless if you're like in OnlyFans or some shit. So not unless if she's beautiful and famous and she's appearing on people's explore pages because she posts regularly, would that even be remotely possible? Of which there's not that many women that do that. And even then, those same women have days when guys either don't slide into their DMs, or it's the same recurring examples of men who have slid into their DMs. So it's not like even they are clocking 730 men in a year. Like, it's possible, don't get me wrong, but it's not like it's every babe doing that. I don't even think 5% of the most beautiful women on earth are actually doing that. So this assumption that guys are going to be swooning over your supposedly very beautiful girl is a bit of a misstep. If anything, best case scenario is maybe like 1 or 2 guys a week, of which if you're using the same exact routes and assuming, let's say you're driving even, that might be the same 2 or 3 people that'll be at the office, or 1 or 2 people who are at the office, or maybe 1 or 2 people that live close to or around your place, because there's a lot of people that actually do not interact with other people as they're busy moving around in the streets or trying to get, some service or some sort of goods from around the area. So essentially, that 730 just drops down incredibly quick. And then to also add insult to injury, or to put the nail in the coffin, there's also been an increasing shortage of guys hitting on babes nowadays, so there's even fewer guys that are going to be shooting their shot at her. So if anything, like maybe 10-15 years ago, she'd have been getting hit on by, call it like 50 guys in a year, but now it's like 25 or even less than 20, because nowadays there's fewer guys that are shooting their shots with babes both on and offline. And I may not have the stats on this, but there's babes online busy complaining all the time that they're beautiful but they're not getting approached. There's babes online busy talking about guys nowadays have no confidence and they don't know how to approach to or even talk to women. So if anything, this babe's just chatting a bunch of bull. Like, for the most part, yes, your shorty could be doing that, but the only way that she can be clocking 730 men in a year is if she's going to a different place every single day, whereby she is going to meet or interact with at least 2 guys that will want to hook up with her, or, and this is or, she is actively looking for guys who want to hook up with her every single day. Of which, if that's the case, that's a different kind of problem. That's more of an attention, or maybe she belongs to the streets type of problem. Of which, if that's the case, or even though that's not the case, if you're a beautiful woman and you're dating me, it's not like you became beautiful, just when you started dating me. It's not like you became beautiful overnight. This has been something that you've had for a while. Hell, if anything, it's probably something you've had for years. So, the fact that there's guys approaching you all the time should be something that you are probably used to and you have experience with, and you know how to basically deflect or, kind of just stand these guys down or ghost them or whatever. But the point is, you chose to date me, so you're basically agreeing that you're going to be faithful to me. At least that's what the agreement is supposed to be. So should you want to cross that, should you feel like there is someone that can give you more and or better, then it is entirely up to you to leave me and go and find that more or better. So regardless of whether you're a 10, an 8, a 7, a 5 or a 2, at the end of it, I chose to date you because I wanted to be with you for a certain number of reasons, not just because you're beautiful. And you know what? If you feel like all of these guys hitting on you is so good that you don't want to be with me anymore, then fucking bounce. I can find another beautiful woman. It's not like you'll be the end all be all. So fellas, you dating or being with a beautiful woman should not in any way intimidate you. Alright? These women have the capability to or not to be faithful to you, so at the end of the day, remember that it's her choice. She can swat these guys away. She can basically, decide to turn these guys down. So whether she decides to or not is entirely going to come down to her. So that should not really bother you. And for the beautiful women, or the allegedly beautiful women, just because guys hit on you doesn't mean shit when it comes to us guys, because if they hit on you, then fine, cool, you're beautiful, you're attractive, and other people feel the same way. But at the end of the day, that's not something that's supposed to faze us. If it does, then it's probably because on one end, maybe I might be insecure, but on the other end, maybe you're also the one that's entertaining a lot of this attention, which you probably shouldn't, and the problem is you. But I could be wrong about this, and maybe I am, maybe I'm not. Either way, I'm going to leave it at that and move it on to our main topic of this episode, which involves me talking about my or some supposed understanding of women. Now, earlier today, before I started recording, I stumbled across a particularly interesting post on Reddit. It was a guy that basically came up to ask about 10 easy steps to understanding all women. And when I saw this title, I kind of looked at it and I was like, this is almost like a bait for people to just say a bunch of shit. But interestingly enough, it wasn't, because he even came up with a couple of conditions, and looking through some of those conditions wasn't actually all that bad. It actually did seem pretty sensible, and he also asked it in a fairly sensible subreddit. So what the guy said was, and I quote, "Please help. I need a few steps. Here are the conditions. 1. The fewer the steps, the better, but no more than 10. 2. Every step needs to be very easy. 3. They must be guaranteed to work." End quote. And you look at this, dude is asking for easy steps to understanding all women, and it would probably look like it's an easy thing, but I beg to differ. Interestingly enough, the comments weren't actually all that bad, so I'm gonna read some of them. So one person said, and I quote, "Hey OP, 49-year-old married father of 2 here. Step 1, understand that women are not faulty men, they are women. Step 2, talk to any woman that you wish to understand and make an effort to understand her. There you go." End quote. Of which I actually like this. It seems mostly specific, but I actually like it because they're pretty simple steps, and I feel like it's actually a good thing that the guy said. It was very considerate. It's not like he was trying to bash or hit at women, and it does actually seem like pretty good advice. Then another one that someone said was, and I quote, 1. Stop presuming all women are a monolith. 2. Do your due diligence on understanding women. 3. Be a decent human. 4. Don't be a dick. End quote. Which, when I looked at this, I was like, okay, step 2 is basically you going around the same circle that this guy basically used, which is why he started with, I need a couple of easy steps on understanding all women, and you're like, do your due diligence on understanding women. Like, nigga, you're basically repeating the entire thing. But, the rest of them seem fairly normal. I don't even think this one is like understanding all women. I feel like this is just understanding people. But this is actually even beyond that. This is just being a good human being. Then there's another one here, because I want to avoid a lot of the long ones, where someone said, and I quote, step 1, you don't. Step 2, every time you might begin to think you do, you don't even more. End quote. Which I feel is the advice that most men will give other men, where it's like, you just can't understand women. And I know a lot of times it can seem very disrespectful or like we don't like women, but that's not really the case. Sometimes it's just facts, okay? It's not like we're saying this in a derogatory manner. It's not like we don't like women. We love women. And, it's not like we only love women just for sex. But, like, sometimes the truth of the matter is we just can't understand women. And that's the truth of the matter. But with that said, this is one of those things that looks very easy when it's being asked or when it's being said. But when it comes to actually executing it, doesn't seem as easy, even for someone like me that talks about love, sex, and relationships. Now, granted, I speak on things from a guy's perspective, not a woman's perspective. So, my ability to understand women can be a little bit limited. And, at the end of the day, I understand guys more than I understand women. One, because I am a guy, I have the parts, I've gone through the experience of being a guy, but also I don't have enough experience as a woman. I don't have any experience, or at least much experience, that women would say, I've gone through this same exact thing. But still, I don't mind a challenge actually. I honestly don't. And seeing this is something that I feel like I can still contribute to. So considering that I have about 5 points plus a bonus which will come at the end, I figured, let me drop a couple of points here. So the rule of thumb, or at least the conditions were, and I'll just repeat them. 1, the fewer the steps, the better, but no more than 10. So I don't have 10, I have 5. So I think I meet that one. 2, every step needs to be very easy. I believe it will be, because it's not like it's more of practice, it's more of understanding. And 3, they must be guaranteed to work. You'll probably notice this with a lot of women, not necessarily all of them, but I could be wrong considering that different people tend to act differently based on different cultures. But all in all, I'm going to drop my tips here. So for those of you all that have been waiting, here they are. So, first one, not all women are the same. They may seem similar, but they're still quite different, okay? Now, this one I feel is very straightforward. It is very easy to understand because even beyond the whole women are not a monolith thing, even men will oftentimes come and they're like, you know what, we're not a monolith. It's not like all men are the same. It's not like all Kenyan men are the same. It's not like all Nairobi men are the same. Hell, it's not like even most men, even in the corporate organization or even in a household, are the same. So that understanding that they're not all the same, they may be similar, but they're not all the same, is very important. Okay? Then the second one is, minus your mother and or your grandmother, somewhere like 98% of women will value you based on what you have to offer and not even necessarily based on who you are. And this is something that people might come and be like, oh no, Denver, this is bullshit. But let me explain. All right, let me explain. First of all, like, there's studies to actually prove this, or at least a study. There's a study that I saw recently. It's not a particularly recent study, but there was a study that I saw on opposite sex friendships that was done by a couple of professors, David Buss included, the guy behind the whole, like 75% of women cheating fall in love with a partner, and 75% of men who cheat on their partners, go for sexual variety and blah blah. Anyways, so they had this study where they did, the effect, or at least what it is that makes opposite sex friendships work and what it is that each side prefers. And what it is that they noticed was most women usually would go for a guy if he had physical prowess and if he was financially stable, or if he was doing better financially, or just doing very well financially, as opposed to a lot of the other things like, physical beauty or, emotional intelligence and so on and so forth. Both sides, liked personality to roughly about the same degree, but, those differences were pretty apparent. So saying that your physical prowess and or your financial capabilities do not directly relate to the fact that you are resourceful as a man, regardless of whether you are a good friend or a good partner, is basically just you playing the Lulu. Now, does that mean that there are no women that will appreciate you for who you are? That's not entirely true. There's still some women that may appreciate you for who you are, but they're very few and far between. Most women will usually want to be your friend or will want to be with you for what it is that you can give and how resourceful you are in whichever way they might want you to be resourceful that they actually kind of like. So there it is, I've given it to you. And with that said, I will move on to point number 3, which is, as a man, you'll have to accept that your input will never fully be reciprocated, and you kind of have to be okay with it. Now, this doesn't mean that you'll be treated like a doormat everywhere, but it's not like the kind of input that you give out here will always be directly reciprocated, in that they will try to do something that matches up to it pound for pound. Let me put it like this. There's a saying that you hear a lot of women give, and whether they're talking about a guy that they're trying to date, or a guy that's taking them on a date, or a potential boyfriend or a boyfriend or even a husband, you'll regularly hear a statement like, if or when we're going for a movie, he pays for the tickets and I buy the popcorn. Now, it's not like that statement is wrong or bad or anything, but it is a very clear sign that your input is not directly going to correlate with the output or the input that she gives. So you kind of have to be okay with that as a guy. The whole idea of you being the provider, not like I'm trying to measure up which one is more taxing or anything whenever it comes to relationships and like traditional duties and shit, but as a guy, you're expected to be a provider regardless of the situation. And at the end of the day, even though your babe gives you less, or even though your babe gives you barely anything close to the bare minimum, at the end of the day, you are expected to provide because you are a man. And it's an annoying thing. It's not like it's something that we can abscond from and choose not to do, not unless if we're ready to be labeled by society in like the worst ways possible, like being a deadbeat and shit. But the truth of it is, we're expected to give and give as men. And will it always be reciprocated? No, but even when that reciprocation comes, it may not be anything that will really match up. But anyways, that said, let me move on to point number 4, which is draw your boundaries with them and be unapologetic about it. And I say this more so as a guy that has understood the power of the friend zone and the power to be manipulated because you are in the friend zone. Because this mostly happens to guys that you can say simp, but just generally guys that have like feelings for a babe or really, really like a babe. Like, you find that those guys end up sometimes being treated like doormats. So the babe will just ask him to do stuff for her, go and emotionally dump on this guy all the bloody time. And the guy just takes it because he cares about her a lot, and he really likes her and he really wants to make her life easy and shit. Like, we're guys, that's just kind of how we are. That's kind of how we're wired. When we see something we like, or when we see someone we really like and we would want to be with, we try to make their lives easier. So you're doing all of this for this babe, and then at the end of the day, like, she just continues stretching those boundaries. And not unless if you decide that you're gonna put your foot down and you're going to let it stop somewhere, then you will continue being used until there's nothing left to use. And this isn't just like in the case of like the friend zone, like just being a guy. If you are close with some women, or just even a lot of women, there's the possibility that they can just use you like that. And if you are doing a lot of these things out of the goodness of your heart, they can easily take advantage of it. So drawing boundaries somewhere where you know there's only so much that you can do before it gets to a point and you're like, nah, this is like, say for example, reserved for a girlfriend, or you'll have to pay for this, or I need some quid pro quo. Like at the end of it, you as a guy definitely have to draw that boundary, and no matter how they react, be unapologetic about it. Because women can emotionally and sometimes even mentally manipulate you to a point where you feel sorry for them. But always have boundaries and always be ready to stand your ground. And I know by now it sounds like I have something against women, and I don't. I actually don't. I promise you I don't. But as someone that has had lots of experience with different women, not even in the romantic or the sexual kind, like these are things that you pick up on as a guy. All right. But anyways, on to the fifth point, which doesn't make things any better for me, but it's the truth. Don't put them on a pedestal. I kid you the hell not. Do not put them on a pedestal. And this isn't just for your own good, it's also for their own good. As a guy, if there's someone that you really, really fall for, it's very easy for you to see them as a higher tier person or being, as opposed to yourself or as opposed to everyone else, which is why, whenever they ask you to do stuff for them, you kind of just will jump and start doing it for them from the jump, no pun intended. But essentially, you need to accept that they're just as human as you and me. And as human beings, they live and breathe, they take a shit and go to the toilet like everyone else. They have problems like everyone else. And, they're also very capable of doing wrong to other people and also to you. So the moment you humanize them a hell of a lot more, the less you can fall prey to being taken advantage of or being treated like shit or even being friend-zoned because you decided not to put them on a pedestal. And that basically kind of wraps it up as far as giving 5 points is concerned. But you know me, and I always have a conclusion, and I figured, why not give a bonus point? So here's the sixth point, which I will give as a conclusion, but is probably the most important point out of all of these, alright? As a man, you can never truly understand women, okay? You can never truly understand women. Women understand each other the most, alright? And even they don't like a lot of each other a lot of the time. So why bother? Why bother really? But then again, I could be wrong. This could be a sexist statement, but either way, I want your thoughts on it. The DMs are open on IG. It is at the Breaktime_podcast. On Facebook, it is at the Breaktime Podcast. On X, it is at Bagak_the_D. And on Bluesky, it is at the BreaktimePod.bsky.social. Thank you so much for listening all the way till the end, and I will catch you guys on the next break.
But what I believe is that if you put a pastor and a prostitute in one room, one is likely to convert the other.